Hello, welcome back to All About America's Team. And as you all can see, we are not dead. So just wanted to get that out of the way. It's been a tough 2 weeks with final exams. Those are done. We are off for Christmas break just in time for some December Cowboys football. I'm Ray Nickens, joined with, as always,
Oh, and the Chico.
and we got quite a jam-packed episode. We got some stuff we need to catch up on. We got 2 games we got to talk about, and then we'll dive into the Cowboys clash with the Jaguars tomorrow. So, just before we dive right in, Owen's got a couple of breaking news segments. So,
Yeah.
Owen, we'll start there.
So, as everyone knows, T.Y. Hilton, sorry, was signed by the Cowboys. And in 2021, he only started 9 games for 331 yards. But in 2020, he started 15 games and got 762 yards. So, while they're not astounding numbers, he's veteran leadership. He's by far the oldest wide receiver on the league, and I think that from what I've been seeing, Dallas has stated that he knows the playbook already, and that he's looking to make an impact, and his impact has already been made known on the practice field. Also, Tyron Smith is supposed to come back this Sunday, and I think Ray is going to like this. The offensive line is probably going to be Tyler Smith at left tackle, Connor McGovern at left guard, Biotish at center, Zach Martin at right guard, and then Tyron Tyron Smith at right tackle. This is the first time that Tyron Smith has played right tackle since his rookie year. But I think that there's no better guy to line him up next to than Zach Martin. Tyron has looked very good in practice. He's put on some muscle, and which is good because he's kept in shape. And luckily, Dallas has two other right tackles that they can put into the mix if they want to give Tyron a breather for a few snaps. Um, Besides that, Dallas did pick up, I believe his name is Trayvon Mullen, who is an ex-Raider. He is an ex-Cardinal. He was a second-round pick, and Dallas got him off waivers. So he will be fighting for the CB2 spot with Kelvin Joseph and Dayron Bland, but Dayron Bland will probably be going into the slot to fill Jordan Lewis's shoes. Um, Besides that, I think everything is, and also Micah talking about. He went on Von Miller's podcast, talked about Jalen Hurts, and that created a lot of talk around Sports Nation. And if Ray wants to talk about that, we can talk about that a little bit later. But I think that is all for injury news.
Well, just before we get right in, I wanted to dive into the T.Y. Hilton signing. Um, if y'all do, if some of y'all do not know much about T.Y. Hilton, he is a multi Pro Bowl caliber player. He came in as a rookie, I believe. I'm pretty sure the same year as Andrew Luck. So he's been around for quite a long time. He's been very serviceable at wide receiver, has had plenty of 1,000-yard seasons, high touchdown seasons. The one thing he does struggle with is hamstring and knee injuries. So he's had a lot of lower body injuries in the past. That's one of the reasons why he's not been signed for a while, because he is an older receiver, and older receivers with lower body issues are usually seen as usually deemed as washed because they can't run as they could have before. And if you can't run and get past people, then you're not as serviceable at the outside wide receiver position. But if he's looking good in practice, that's a good sign. That means he has a little bit left in the tank. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. I don't see him taking targets away from a CD Lamb. Not that CD Lamb is a high target receiver anyway, but I do still think that CeeDee Lamb is the wide receiver one. He's going to be the number one option. After that, it really is a toss up between who is getting open. Michael Gallup is the wide receiver too, but I mean, Noah Brown gets targets. Schultz is getting targets. So I think what they're looking for from T.Y. Hilton is kind of a one or two plays here and there, to just kind of give them a little bit of an extra splash. I mean, a lot of people have deemed this as them giving up on Odell, even though Jerry is making it abundantly clear that they are not. I still don't believe that Odell is going to be signed by any team this year, especially with the reports on how his knee does not look good, and he is a lot further from being ready to go than has been expected. So,
Yeah. And then also one
hopefully,
thing I'll say it after you.
yeah. Hopefully T.Y. Hilton can make an impact. I mean, the wide receiving core has looked a lot better the last couple weeks than it has at the beginning of the year, which is a good sign. Um, there's still some inconsistencies between the receivers and the quarterback, but hopefully that can get squared away by the postseason coming up.
Yeah, for sure. And if my memory serves me correct, Chuck Pagano was the coach for Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton, and Chuck was asked what his thoughts were on this signing, and he loved it. He was very elated. He said that he's a great locker room presence. And I think the thing for Ty was that he was waiting for the right situation. I think a lot of players when they spend 10+ years in the league, they want to be able to spend some time at home. And Ty got that, and he thinks that he's able to make an impact. And this signing is a very low risk signing because he's with all of his incentives, he'll barely be making over $1 million, which isn't going to be hurting anyone's pockets. So we'll see what he can do. Um, in his prime, he was great, but like Ray said, a lot of injuries, and hopefully he is 100% healthy. And I'm looking forward to seeing what number 16 can do. I think I think I don't think he'll make like I don't think they'll have like a career day or anything like that against the Jaguars, but I do think that he brings something that no one else on this no other wide receiver really brings, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do on Saturday on Sunday tomorrow.
Just a quick follow up. What do you think that he brings that nobody in the wide receiver room has?
There were a lot of reports that he's able to break um he's able to find holes in zones, and I think that a big issue with some of the wide receivers has been like we saw whether it has to do with play calling or just wide receivers being on the more unexperienced side. I do think that someone that is able to find the holes in zones is something that beneficial. As you and I both know, Dak, like in the play behind me, he can kind of get out of the pocket sometimes, and it's good to be able to have a wide receiver that you know who will be able to that will be open. And he does have he is a veteran, so he knows the in and outs, and I'm looking forward to it. But again, if he does not play well, then it was a low risk signing. And yeah, I do like it more than Odell because I think right now Odell's on like he's on a publicity tour, just trying to get a bunch of people talking about him, so that whenever he does play, whether it's next year, he'll be talked about, and he'll probably be the most talked about free agent in the class. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, was just curious what you meant by that.
Yeah,
Um, with your BFF CD Lamb on the team, I just wanted to make sure that uh,
VFF.
just I have to hold you. I have to just kind of make sure you know what you are saying in the moment sometimes. But
No, I think CD's great. I think that the way you have to use him is you have to use him like you did against the Colts, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I think that if you keep him moving, they're able to use him effectively. And I hope that they can take because even in OU, he was known for his being in space and being able to make plays being able to make nothing out of something. And I think that is how you most effectively use him. I think he's looked better this year than last year, but then like you brought up, he'll have like he I think he had like a little less than 50 receiving yards against the Texans, which not every game is going to be great
He
for
had
a
a
wide
little
receiver.
less than 40 receiving
Okay,
yards against the Texans.
and not every game is going to be great. Like JJ had a pretty mediocre game against Dallas, but that's what happens. You're not going to be great every single game. And obviously, JJ has had a lot more highs than CD has had highs. But hopefully, they're able to pick things back up because, as we'll get into in a little bit, everyone is looking at this game against the Jaguars to be um, an upset alert. And with Dallas playing the Philadelphia Eagles in a week, um, this game tomorrow is extremely important, and I think that we can stop teasing it enough. Ray, what were your thoughts on the Colts and the Texans game? If you want to take a few minutes to talk about it, and then and then we can kind of talk about like give me like your MVP for each game, least valuable player, and all the good stuff.
Yeah. Just a quick point before I get into that, just really quickly. This season, CeeDee Lamb has had two 100-yard games, and Justin
Mhm.
Jefferson has had eight. So
No,
that's
I said the highs are very different. But I'm just saying it's normal for a guy to not be great every single game. That's all that I was trying to say. I'm in no way comparing the two because you can't compare the two.
well. I'm glad we've made it to the point where you have decided you cannot compare the two because
You know what? Like
there was a
45 shows ago,
there more
there
like
was a
more
comparison.
like 5 shows ago. You Owen was trying to compare, but that doesn't matter. We're gonna dive in. We got a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but um, yeah. So my thoughts on the Colts and the Cowboys games, both were pretty sloppy. Um, the Colts game, I mean, the Dallas trailed. I believe there were two scenarios in the game where Dallas was trailing to the Indianapolis Colts, and then another scenario where the Colts went down the field and scored late to make it a two-possession game. And if they had converted a two-point conversion, it would have evidently tied the game. The difference in that game was the Cowboys were able to force a couple. There was a fumble that they ended up returning for a touchdown. They got a couple interceptions late and really flipped the field. The Dallas offense did not spend a lot of time making long extended drives. They were spent most of their day, or I guess evening, on the Indianapolis side of the field, and I think their longest drive had to be 50 yards or 60 or so yards because most of the time they were getting the ball inside the Indianapolis's 40. So when you're getting the ball in the opponent's territory over and over again, it's a lot easier to get in the end zone than it is if you're having to go down the field. Not saying the Cowboys are not capable of doing that, but this game was just a very interesting game considering that the Cowboys scored 25 or 30 points in the fourth quarter and most of those
33.
turnovers,
Yeah,
and they were getting the ball well within the Colts territory and we're just able to
yeah,
punch it in a couple quick times.
for sure.
I don't mean that game the Colts definitely gave that game away. The Dallas Cowboys offense did not really take the game. The defense got a lot of stops late. They've, like I said, forced turnovers, and Dak and the offense were able to cash those in and really blow the game open late. So, I mean, the Colts, while they are pretty abysmal and terrible, and definitely have far disappointed me with my prediction of their season early on. They are still a dangerous team. Um, and I mean, I'm looking down to my phone, and they're up 23 to nothing on the Vikings, who are a playoff team. So,
Yeah,
and I mean, they played the Cowboys close. They for or so quarters. They played the Eagles close. Like they're a team that you have to watch out for. So the fact that the Cowboys, after playing with their food for 2 or 3 quarters, they were able to close the door immediately, which is
yeah,
a very good sign. So, that's just kind of all I really have to say in the Colts game. Um, what what did surprise, what was a good sign was the Cowboys defense did look better stopping the run against Jonathan Taylor. I think he had a 120-yard rush and I mean
Yeah.
a short yardage touchdown. But they did do a good job of stopping him. Not saying the Colts are anything great at running the football, but that is their calling card. That's what they say they do the best. So it's good to see that the Cowboys were able to get that squared away and show some good signs in that department. But just to kind of transition into the Texans game, that game is a lot more alarming to me than the
Yeah.
Colts game. Even though Owen did pick the Colts, which was alarming to me, but that's besides the point. I mean, we see the records, we know where Owen has stood with picking the Cowboys this year. But
I've given
what
you
really,
50 episodes of laughter.
yeah, I mean, we all thought that I was a negative one, and sure enough, I every time I pick the Cowboys, except for one time, they've won. So that's just kind of the situation that we have found ourselves in. But what shocked me about the Texans game, one was the mistakes, how many mistakes the Cowboys made. The muff punt by Cavante Turpin. I've been waiting for him to muff a punt all year. Every time he's gone back there, I've been just like, hopefully this is not the time, because I knew it was coming. Um, I knew there was going to be a scenario where he was going to drop one. It was going to flip the field. So hopefully that's the only time that happens. Better to get it out of the way against the worst team in football than against the 49ers or the Eagles in the postseason. So
Yeah.
that just kind of turned the game on its head, gave the Texans a short field. They were able to, I think they might even only have gotten a field goal out of that. So um, kind of got a lucky break there. But um, the Cowboys defense, they didn't do a great job of stopping the run early on in the game. Not necessarily by Damian Pierce, but the read option game. The Texans had a good plan. They came out with Jeff Driscoll running the read option, and it really um, frustrated the Cowboys edge rushers. And I think it was a really great idea to kind of to slow down Micah Parsons, who's been quite silent the last couple of weeks. It's allowed Nick Bosa to take a commanding lead in the Defensive Player of the Year um, running. But what they were kind of made Micah Parsons and the edge rushers guess. And there was one particular play where Driscoll decided to hand it off, and if he had kept it, he might have made it all the way to the end zone. I mean, the announcer spent 5 or 10 minutes talking about that one particular play where he made a bad read, and the whole entire right side of the field was wide open for him to run. So it could have been a lot worse in that scenario, but I do think that the Cowboys they have done a better job the last couple weeks of stuffing out the run game. Haven't had a lot of running backs, really blow them open like earlier on in the year. But I mean, what was more concerning to me was how poorly the offense looked. I mean, the Cowboys struggled all game to produce any sort of offense. Dak Prescott had his worst game of the season by far, through the two interceptions. One of the interceptions should have. I don't care who you are. His second interception, 99 times out of 100 ends the game, and the Cowboys are the biggest laughing stock of the NFL. I had to deal with all my Houston Texans fans blowing up my phone, um, and it would not have been a good day. But I mean, the defense, they did prove that they are the calling card of the team. They are the driving force of the team. It's not the offense; it's the defense. They showed up big, and I mean, and then Dak had his one shining moment of the day, went 98 yards and scored the touchdown against, and Owen's smiling, but it's we'll keep what he was saying to ourselves during the game. But it was a, I can't say it's against the Texans because they still ended up winning. But I mean, at that point, after giving away the game, it was about time that Dak did something positive late in the game. We haven't seen it in a long time, and it was good to see. I mean, the one thing I'll say is that a lot of quarterbacks have done similar. I mean, back in the day before Owen was a huge watcher of the Cowboys, there was a game where Romo threw 5 interceptions against the Buffalo Bills, who were a pretty terrible team. This is back in the TO days, and they ended up recovering an onside kick, and he led them down the field for a game-winning field goal. And that was a game where he threw 5 interceptions, and it was a pretty disastrous day. So I'm not gonna, trash Dak on throwing a late game pick and then winning. It was good to see they got the win. They escaped. Probably we're looking ahead 2 weeks to the Eagles. I mean 99 times out of 10 the Cowboys are blowing out the Colts, not the Colts, the Texans. Um, and we're not having this kind of conversation, but just a couple of scenarios where the offense, struggled to get down the field. The Dak Prescott turnovers are still a concern. He's his 8 interceptions, and he's had one, I think two turnovers more than the games he's played since he's come back from injury. So he's averaging more than a turnover per game, and it's getting to the point where if he doesn't clean it up, he could end the season with like a 16-14 type of um, year, which is not a good year by any quarterback. That's what you kind of expect out of a rookie, not a 6 or 7 year veteran. So hopefully he cleans that up. He said he's needed to clean it up. So at least he's acknowledging that he has been playing poorly, unlike one quarterback that will remain nameless because he doesn't matter to the show. But yeah, I mean, I don't see the Cowboys. I looked at it today. The only scenario where they would miss the playoffs is if the Washington football team win out and the Cowboys lose out. I don't believe that's going to happen. So even if there is a catastrophic collapse coming up, the Cowboys are still going to make it in as the 7th seed, and they're talented enough where they can win multiple games in the postseason. So, um, I'm in the headspace after a week since the Texans game to kind of put it behind me and just get into the Jaguars game, because that is a much more intriguing matchup to me than being down about the horrendous performance by the team against the Houston Texans.
For sure. Then I will keep my analysis short and sweet. The biggest thing about the Texans game was the fact that Dallas's right tackle Terrence Steele tore his ACL. I forgot to put that into the main injury report. That is an issue. Dallas trotted out Josh Ball, and the only reason why I'm not mad at Dak for the second interception was that his arm was hit. The interception was awful, and it looked terrible in the end zone, but his arm was hit, so I won't get too mad at him for it. That was by second-year tackle Josh Ball. The only reason why Dallas won that game was because they put in the longtime Eagle right tackle Jason Peters. The only reason why they won that game, because he looked a lot better at right tackle and Dak had an open pocket. And to go into Dallas's offensive line blunders, there was a photo that I believe ESPN put on, and it says worst pass block win rate. And this season, it's an ESPN Analytics next gen stat. And pass block win means that you're able to keep a block for 2.5 seconds. Dallas is second to last. Only 48.2% of the time, Dallas's offensive linemen keep a block for 2.5 seconds. And this is significant because Dallas has the least amount of sacks, with 16 through 13 games. So they're either the bottom or the second. Now I bring this up just to poke fun at Ray, because he has stated that Dak has cement shoes and that he doesn't get around the pocket. Well, if the offensive line has not been doing very well against the pass, has not been doing well keeping the pass, like holding up against, like on passing downs, then Dak, I think, has been having a very good game with getting around sacks. Now that also I wanted to poke one more fun thing at Ray. Over the week, Ray and I were talking about how Dak has not really played well against teams with a winning record. And this is an article that was posted on December 3rd of 2022. And this, Ray, do you believe? Let me. So there are obviously a lot of quarterbacks who have been very well against winning teams. Lamar Jackson, 63% chance against a winning team, he's winning. Brady, 61%. Patrick Mahomes, 63%. Garoppolo, 56. Russell Wilson, 54. Aaron Rodgers, 48. Dak is 43%. Josh Allen is 44. Herbert is 40. Matt Ryan is 34. Kyler Murray is 33. Deshaun Watson is 26. Derek Carr is 23. Kirk Cousins is 20%. Matthew Stafford is 13%. So, as those numbers dictate, it is very difficult in this league to beat winning teams. Yes, there are some quarterbacks that are very good at it, and for like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson have only faced 16 winning teams in their stints in the NFL as of December 3rd. Again, Dak and the offense could do a lot better, but it is very difficult to win. And that's all I wanted to say. I found those two pieces of information a week ago, and I've been waiting very patiently to poke fun at Ray. Now, the
Mm.
Colts game, that was abysmal. Um, the like Ray said, I think that Dallas loses this game if Jeff Saturday does not go for two. I think that it gave Dallas a lot of momentum, and obviously, Dayron Bland having an insane interception, his second interception, definitely helps, and Malik Hooker having a career day against his former team. And the ironic part of this game is because the pregame for this show, I was talking about how bad Jalen Hurts or how Jalen Hurts has some games where he throws for under 200 yards, and Dak threw for 170. So my bad, y'all. It was inevitable. Now, for the Texans game, like I said, the only reason why Dallas wins that game, in my opinion, is because Jason Peters was put into right tackle, which I was not expecting Dallas to make that type of um that type of change, because Ray and I both know against the Falcons in 2017, they when Tyron Smith went down, they put a left tackle in. I forget, I'm not very good with names, but he gave up 6 sacks to Claiborne, and they had no interest in moving him out. But I was happy that Mike McCarthy and company had the wisdom to take out the struggling right tackle and put in Jason Peters. Dak Prescott, by the numbers, had a pretty good game numbers wise. Um, Zeke, I thought, had a really good game, but besides the first few drives, um, I was coming out of church when this game was starting, so I missed the first drive. But Tony Pollard had 2 touchdowns. So besides those 2 drives, the offense was kind of terrible. And I I I was not. Dak looked bad. The whole offense looked bad. And I felt that the game was kind of over. After after the interception, and then Demarcus Lawrence had a great play, and just the rest of the defensive line had a really great just drive. And the one thing about the Dallas Cowboys that really upset me is how inconsistent they are. And against the Bears, Dallas needed it to tie the game, or I think it was the Bears game. They needed to tie the game or go ahead at the end of the second half, and they just drove very, very easily. Dallas against the Texans drove very easily. I don't understand how when you need to score, it's so effortless, but when you're just playing the game, it's extremely difficult to score. And that's difficult because you're going to be going up against it's not a great thing, because you're going to be going up against the 49ers and other teams where if you play like you're half asleep, the game's going to be over by the second half, and there's no way you're going to be able to come back. And I think that everyone I believe a lot of people took that game against the Texans and laughed at Dallas. And yes, the Texans did play well against the Eagles, so sure, but that game was not as embarrassing as this one was. And I think, like I was mentioning before, this game against the Jaguars is very important because if Dallas loses this game, then I don't I don't know how you can be confident going to playing Philly on Christmas Eve. I think that like Ray mentioned talking to me earlier, Dallas usually plays well the next game after being embarrassed. Packers going to Minnesota, and just in the Dak era, Dak after having a bad game or several bad games, he's due for like a very efficient game. And I hope that this is the efficient game that we have been hoping for and calling for. Um, but I and like even if you look at like ESPN's win probability, they had the Texans had a 70% chance, had an 85% chance to win the game with 5 minutes left. So it was not Dallas never looked like they wanted the win. Mike McCarthy talked about that whole week, like don't take the egg or something like that, which you don't want to play bad against a team that you're favored to win by 17 points. And Dallas did that. Dallas was fortunate enough to get the win. I think that a lot of the players were very upset. They only wanted to talk about the triumphant win, but I hope that um, throughout this week and going through like the plays and everything like that, and just watching the film, I hope they're angry. Because this Jags team is very beatable. Recently, they've been playing well. Um, but I'm looking forward to to this. And the last time that Dallas played the Jags was a few years ago, and that was I think that's when Connor, um, yeah, it's when the famous MMA fighter came, and there was a lot of hype around that. Conor McGregor came. So I'm looking forward to this game. Now, Ray, I know that we kind of want to talk about the um, the Jaguars game, but my MVP for the Texans game was Jason Peters and Dak. You can get a sliver of the MVP for the last drive, and for the Colts game, it was the whole defense. And also, I'll give the coaching staff props against the Texans for being smart enough to take out a struggling right tackle and putting in Jason Peters.
Hmm. So
And Tyron Smith has officially been activated to the 53-man roster.
perfect.
So he's
Perfect.
starting at right tackle.
Very, very good. My MVP for the Colts game will be Malik Hooker.
Yeah, that's a
That's
good
a
one.
pretty obvious choice. Um, the Texans game, my MVP will not be Dak. He does not deserve the MVP. My MVP will be DeMarcus Lawrence because DeMarcus
Oh,
Lawrence is the reason
wow.
why the Cowboys won.
Yes, he
Because
is.
he made two very key big plays on that goal line stand at the end of the game, giving the offense a chance to go down the field and win. Um, so that's why he will be getting the MVP. And it's very interesting because the Cowboys have, while they have been the worst pass blocking win rate team, they've only given up 9 sacks, which
Yeah.
is which is quite interesting. So, I mean, I was curious because I've heard that stat thrown around the last couple of weeks about how they've been struggling to, pass block well. And I'm like, well, I don't see Dak getting put on the ground a lot. So I went and looked, and sure enough, he's only been sacked 9 times. Um, so while they have been struggling, he it hasn't affected him being hit. I don't really think he's been hit a lot. I mean,
I
he was a hit a
recently he
lot more.
has been.
It was obvious of that,
Yeah.
but overall, I don't think it's been as much of an impact as the ESPN or Amazon's next gen stats. So, um,
I just
I
think that
mean,
it shows that either Dallas is getting the ball out
those
early.
always make me laugh, considering that the Pro Football Focus ranks Andy Dalton as the fifth best quarterback, and then you have ESPN ranking the Dallas Cowboys offensive line as the worst offensive line
Yeah.
when pass blocking, and I'm just like, well, there are a lot worse offensive lines. I'm sure. I don't want to say anything that's wrong, but I would be willing to bet that Joe Burrow has been sacked more times than Dak Prescott has this year. So
It's the Colts the first worst, then Cowboys, then Jaguars. Or at least those are the three that they showed. I'm not there. There might be teams that are worse. That's just who they've shown. Those are like the three worst.
Let's see. I'm googling. It doesn't say immediately. That's unfortunate. Uh oh, that's a good one. That's not helpful. Whatever. But back to your point number two. Um, your it's very hard to beat winning teams in the NFL, which I don't know if this I don't know if you know this, but in order to win the Super Bowl, you have to beat winning teams in the postseason.
The regular season. That was a regular season thing.
I
Obviously, yes, you have to beat
I
winning
know,
teams, but I
but
meant
yes, I know, but the fact that the Cowboys under Dak Prescott struggle to beat those winning teams in the regular season, it tells a lot when they get to the postseason and then they continuously lay eggs in the postseason like they've been doing for the last 28, 29 years. So, um,
all that I was trying to do was just say that there are quarterbacks that have more. That obviously Kyler Murray is, I believe, a more coveted quarterback than Dak. There,
interest.
Marcus Mariota, he is higher than Dak, but has a significant lower amount of games. Jared Goff it's a tick behind, is a few ticks above Dak Prescott. Josh Allen is a few ticks above Dak. And speaking of Josh Allen, I was curious because obviously you and I have talked about how Dak since week 7 has thrown a lot of interceptions.
Oh, him and
Well,
Mahomes are on the list.
huh?
Him and Mahomes are on that list, one interception behind.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that since week 7, um, he, Allen he has thrown 7 interceptions since week 7, and Mahomes has thrown a lot as well. And obviously, those two quarterbacks are not even in the same area code as Dak. Both are far better, and both have. I think that Josh Allen's loss against the Chiefs is far greater than any Dak Prescott playoff win. And obviously, those two players deserve more leeway, but all that I was trying to say is that Dak is not alone with his interception blunders, and he knows that he
Well,
has to get it fixed.
the good thing is that we are a Dallas Cowboys podcast, and Dak Prescott happens to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, meaning he is of his play has a lot of impact on our mental health when it comes to
Yes,
Christmas time in January. So that's kind of why
all
it's a huge problem that
yes,
he's
it
throwing
is.
alarmingly a lot more interceptions than he has in his entire career. Like this season is an outlier when it comes to him taking
Yes,
care of the football. And just a quick point, I mean, where nobody is arguing that Cooper Rush is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott is. But after Cooper Rush came in and basically saved the season, because without those wins, the Cowboys are hovering around 500, or maybe a couple of games above that. But he played well enough to get the Cowboys in this position. And I do think whether Dak will admit it or not, he felt a little bit of an expectation to prove that he is a better quarterback than Cooper Rush, because he's probably heard the noise from the fans who are saying, well, we beat the Bengals. And I mean the
yeah,
Bengals, they look
beat
like
the
the Bengals.
Rams.
The Rams look terrible, but at that point they still looked like they still had a little bit of the identity
Yeah,
of the Super Bowl winning team back when Cooper Rush did play them. And I mean, at that point, the Giants' only loss was to the Cooper Rush's Cowboys
yeah,
when Dak came back. They were 6-1, and so I mean, Cooper Rush had a lot of very important signature wins when he came in, and I do think that Dak did feel a little bit of pressure to prove that he is the guy, he is the better player, and that led to some uncharacteristic plays. I'm sure he's still only in his second year of a huge contract that he received, and since he's gotten that contract, he has not played great. I mean, he had a great year last year. He now holds the record for most touchdowns by a quarterback, Cowboys quarterback in a season, but he did throw for 6 touchdowns in the last game against the Eagles as fourth string players because they didn't really care. So he did. I mean, he got a quarter of his touchdowns in one game against the Eagles in the last week of the year. But I mean, this year he's played a lot worse than he has in a long time. I mean, turning it over once per game is going back to quarterbacks in their rookie year, their
Yeah.
second year, um, and it's. I mean, if the way he's playing right now, the Cowboys would be lucky to get out of the first round because he's. I mean, in the playoffs, when you turn the ball over, throw an interception, fumble, the other team is going to go down the field and score most of the
Yeah.
time. And I mean, you saw against the 49ers, he threw that interception deep in their own territory. 49ers cashed it in and put the game basically out of reach. So, um, like you said, he understands that he's playing pathetic. He's gonna address it, clean it up, or that's what he says. Hopefully, he cleans it up. But I mean, at this point, to try and defend his play, by comparing his stats with a MVP winner, Super Bowl winner, a guy who's made it to every year he's played, has made it to 4 NFC championship games, and then Josh Allen, who's basically improved. Um, he has basically, other than this year, since his rookie year, has improved every year
Yeah.
substantially from the year prior. Whereas
I,
Dak
I- I'm
Prescott,
not. I'm not
like,
trying to compare them as a player. I'm just saying that around the league there are quarterbacks who have thrown an alarming amount, and obviously the only one that we care about is Dak. But I'm just saying, like, if Dak was the only one, then it would be very, 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 very scary. But since there are others that are throwing, like if I like Mahomes threw 3 last week, or maybe even more than that. Like that's uncharacteristic of him.
but I mean,
Dak.
the point I'm making is like the Chiefs fans, they're not concerned with Mahomes throwing interceptions because playoff time, they know that most of the time he's gonna the turnovers are gonna go down. He's gonna be a lot more careful with the ball,
Yeah,
and they're gonna win. I mean, with Mahomes in the regular season, he's really just doing whatever the heck he wants because he knows that they're just so much better, and he can flip it on and score in 30
yeah.
seconds if he needs to.
And
And
you're right.
I mean, like I'm not worried about Patrick Mahomes. Nobody should be worried about Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, at this point, with Dak Prescott playing so uncharacteristically careless with the football, it's
Yeah.
definitely a huge concern for the Cowboys.
I think the biggest thing with Dak is that he's attacking the middle of the field at such an alarming rate. A good chunk of his interceptions are to up the middle to CeeDee Lamb. And in my recollection, I don't think Dak has attacked the middle as much. Obviously, like if they're wide open, yes, but he's throwing the CD at an alarming rate, and I think that if they clean up some stuff, then Dak will his numbers will go down. But I do think that this is very uncharacteristic of him. But I think outside of the interceptions, there are some things to hold on to. The winning drive against Texans, he played very well. Obviously, only 2 minutes out of 58 minutes, but I think that I'd like to see that Dak more. The efficient, um, but we'll see against the Jags. I'd like to think that he'd have no interceptions, but in my honest opinion, I'd rather take one interception and um, him take chances and or than have 0 interceptions and him be like, I'm not gonna throw like that ball because I don't want anything bad to happen, even though like the guy should be open. So I'd rather him be, I forget what the word is, but I'd rather him, um, if he wants it, if he wants it, get it, but obviously don't throw a ball down the middle with 3 Jaguars and CeeDee Lamb. Like that's not smart. Like there's smart and then like there's stupid and then there's smart, and you don't want to make stupid mistakes. You like to take chances on smart things. But like Dax or Noah Brown on the outside, where it was between 2 Texans players and it was fit right in the middle. That is a smart chance. Throwing it in between 3 Texans players in the middle of the field is a stupid chance. So if they clean that stuff up, I think that they could be. I think that at the end of the day, the only team that's really going to be able to stop the Dallas Cowboys is the Dallas Cowboys. And if Dallas plays like they did against the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, no team's beating them, or the teams would find it very hard to beat them. But if Dallas play like they have in the past 4 weeks, they're not winning at all, unless they play like unless they play the Seahawks or something.
Yeah, but I've wasted plenty of time going on my tangent, so I'm just gonna give my quick thoughts on the Jaguars game and then give a quick prediction. But so this game has a chance to be one of those games where the Cowboys defense is going to be tested. The Cowboys haven't played a solid offense since the Vikings game, and they were able to handle their business there. But I mean, Trevor Lawrence is playing the best football other than maybe Jalen Hurts than any quarterback right now. His last 5 or 6 games, he's 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, averaging 280 plus yards a game, 70% completion. He's really kind of looking like what everyone expected him to look like. And with Doug Peterson, who is a Super Bowl winning coach, he's and a good offensive mind. He's kind of figured out Trevor Lawrence and got him playing confidently and very well. And I mean, they have a lot of weapons on the outside: Zay Jones, DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, Evan Ingram at tight end, who played very well last week. And then they have ETN at running back. And ETN is a little bit nicked. I do think that they expect him to go and play. So the Jaguars have done a good job of balancing their attack. They've been running the ball well this year, throwing the ball well. So it's going to be a good test for the Cowboys defense. I'm not saying that the Jaguars are going to make the playoffs, but they're in a position to where they just beat up on the Titans last week. So they're definitely in a position where they're not going to lay down and let the Cowboys get an easy win, because this game is also extremely important for them. That if they're able to get this victory, I think they stay but at least one game behind the Titans.
One game.
Division.
If the Tennessee loses.
Yeah, and then the Tennessee Titans play the Cowboys. So really, this game could, while it really matters for both teams, if you not necessarily matters for the Cowboys, because like I said, the Cowboys, there's really only one scenario where the Cowboys could miss the playoffs. But like this game is going to matter for both teams because the Cowboys are still in the running for that number 1 seed with Philly and even winning the division. So, but the Jaguars are also playing them get into the postseason at the 7th seed. So if the Jaguars, if there's any team that the Cowboys cannot not look ahead of, it's this team.
Yeah.
And it does worry me that Micah Parsons is getting on Von Miller's podcast and talking about how Jalen Hurts is a product of the scheme and the team around him, and just kind of, and that just, I mean, I know he was just asked a question, but I mean, really at this point, especially after playing so poorly the last 3 or 4 weeks, all the focus needs to be on the Jaguars, because the Jaguars all their focus is on the Cowboys, and you're going on the road. The Jaguars have played very well at home this year. They got a young quarterback who's not a 38-year-old Matt Ryan, is not Davis Mills, not Jeff Driscoll. He's got a spry arm. He could run by you, and he's accurate with the football. So the Cowboys defense have to be on their heels in that regard. And then the offense, I mean, the turnovers have got to go down. And the Jaguars defense, they are +5 in the turnover ratio for the season. So they are capable of taking the ball away. The Cowboys need to stay balanced when they're balanced with the football. I don't know if they know this. When they run more than they throw it, they win a lot more games than they do when they pass more than they run.
Yeah.
So I think with the Cowboys, they got to get Tony Pollard and Zeke going, maximize that as best they can. Give the ball to Zeke at the goal line to help me out. Pollard can have the screens and the 20-yard touchdown runs all he wants. I just need my 1 or 2 Zeke goal line TDs. I do think it's important that the Cowboys not turn the ball over this game. I think if they get careless with the ball, whether that be a fumble or an interception, the Jaguars are going to take advantage of that and get in the end zone. So they need to do their best to keep the Jaguars from getting any free points. And I mean, I honestly think that the Cowboys are definitely capable of doing that. I'm worried that the offense is just, or the defense is capable of keeping the Jaguars out of the end zone. I'm just worried that the offense is going to give away freebies to the Jaguars. So um, I'm going to go against my gut. My gut is to take the Jaguars. I've been thinking about this for 2 or 3 days. I've been wanting to pick the Jaguars just because it seems like a classic Dallas Cowboys move to where they have this huge game coming up on Christmas Eve, and then they blow the game before, and then that game doesn't even really matter because it basically locks up the division for the Eagles. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be the Scrooge of the show. I'll leave that to Owen. I'm going to take the Cowboys to win. I'm going to take them to win 31-27.
Mm. Do you think that Dak has an interception?
No, because if he throws an interception, they're going to lose the game.
Do you
That is
think
my
this is
hot
the
take.
first time that
That is my hot
Dak
take.
goes over 300?
No.
Okay. All right. So
The
this game has
Jags have like 240, 240 yards and a couple touchdown
okay.
passes.
So this game has a lot more to do than just playoff implications. Dak can go over 2,000 yards this game. CD can go over 1,000, and so can Pollard. So those are all pretty important things to look at. And obviously, stats, individual stats don't matter, but it's important. Um,
It's
I
important
do.
for our well being to know that our players are playing well.
Yeah, I do think that Dallas loses this game. I think that Dallas losing Jonathan Hankins is big.
Oh,
Jonathan Hankins, he really did help out this defensive line and the interior of it. Losing Terrence Steele, I have no idea what Dallas is going to do on right outside on the right tackle and going. If you're going to put Josh Ball up against Trayvon Walker, put Cooper Rush in.
didn't you just say that Tyron Smith was going to play
Yeah,
right
he's gonna start, but he's not gonna. He's gonna be on a snap reduction because he hasn't played football in a year. He's not gonna. So this is you have Peters, Jason Peters, who's
Here's what
40
they need.
plus.
Here's what they need to do. I'm not the smartest guy. But I mean, I know football pretty well. What the Cowboys need to do, they need to stop being dumb. This is what the coaching staff has done for a long time. They do dumb things. They start dumb people. What they need to do, they need to put Jason Peters out on right tackle. And whenever he needs a breather, put Tyron Smith in. Josh Ball needs to be inactive. He doesn't need to
Yeah,
see the field. He doesn't need to dress. He showed you what he can do against the worst team in the league last week. So he doesn't need to touch the field. The Cowboys need to play mistake-free football. That not only the players on the field, it's the coaching staff. Mike McCarthy's been known to do dumb things his entire tenure as a football coach. He needs to just take it out of his hands and just start the right people. Jason Peters and Tyron Smith, I expect to be playing right tackle. If I see Josh Ball out there, I'm going to lose my mind. That's my little
yeah.
soliloquy rant
I
for the day.
don't think that I think that Jason Garrett would probably do that. McCarthy, sure, he's done a lot of dumb things, but this is the
Well,
first
Mike
time that
McCarthy started Josh Ball right when Terrence Steele got hurt. I don't understand why
yeah,
you would go to him.
Because Josh Ball has played right tackle at Peters hasn't played right tackle since like years ago. Ball has played tackle months ago. So you put the guy in is more familiar, but then as soon as he does something that's stupid, you pull him. They gave him a chance to win it, and he lost it. And now you put Peters in, and so that is just my thing. Um, Jake Ferguson is out with a concussion, which is going to be difficult because he is their second tight end, and Dak loves his tight ends. I have Dallas losing 27-21. Yeah. Um, and then they walk into Philadelphia on Saturday. Um, the Jaguars get have more total yards and they allow more yards. Um, Dallas scores more points, um, but they also have a lower points allowed per game. Dallas has more rushing yards, but the Jaguars have more passing yards, and I think that not having this is the first yeah, this is Kelvin Joseph's going to start. And I think that regardless of what how you feel about Trayvon Diggs, not you as you, Ray, but you as like a collective, um, I would much rather go up against I'd much rather attack Kelvin Joseph than Trayvon because with Trayvon, that's a 50-50 chance that he's catching it. Um, so that is my. I'd love to see Dak play and win, and I think that if Dallas wins, they make the playoffs, and this is a very important game. But I think that, like Ray said, I think that Dallas is just super focused in on the Eagles, and nothing really matters. And I think that it is important that if Dallas does lose, basically lose against the Texans because they should have lost, and then if they lose to the Jaguars, I thought I look, every single year, I'm just looking for something that breaks Dallas, and I think that this stretch could definitely be the thing that breaks Dallas.
So did you say that if they lose this game, they're not going to make the playoffs?
No, no, no. I said if they win, they automatically make it.
Oh, well, gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I just have a quick thing that I needed to show you because I think you forget a lot. Whose jersey is this?
Well, I assume it's Diggs, but with the picture,
That's
number 7, Mr. Diggs,
This is Mr. Diggs.
Mr. Diggs.
So every time Mr. Owen gets on to me about my distaste for Trayvon Diggs, I have to remind him that Trayvon Diggs is the first defensive player jersey that I've owned
No,
as a Cowboys fan.
I was not saying you. I meant like Cowboys Nation. If they have it, if they don't like Diggs, teams would much rather attack Kelvin Joseph than attack Diggs
Which is
because
a no-brainer because if you attack Kelvin Joseph, he's going to give up a big play.
yeah.
So,
So
but
that was what I was saying.
yeah, what's gonna happen is, like you said, one or two things are gonna happen. Then I think we can kind of wrap up. Either the Cowboys are gonna blow this game and then probably blow the Eagles game, and it's gonna be a tough Christmas week, or the Cowboys are gonna win this game, and then, as Stephen A. would put it, it's the perfect scenario for him where Christmas is ruined for the Cowboys fans because they don't win the division on Christmas Eve. But so hopefully we advance to a point where we have a chance for our Christmas to be ruined and not the other way around where the Christmas Eve game means absolutely nothing. But I
Yeah.
mean, even if worst comes to worst, right now we're in the running to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the postseason, which I think any Cowboys fan would look forward to playing a team that scores 13 points a game. So I mean, I'm sure that's still a good spot to be in. No matter if Tom Brady's the quarterback. I mean, if like unless the Cowboys are gonna score 10 points in the playoff game, then I think we should be fine in that regard. But I mean, I think we'd much rather want to play the Vikings, who are currently down 33-0 against the Colts. Shocker, but not surprising. But yeah, I think we're in a good spot. I have 31-27 Cowboys. You have 27-20 Jags.
The 27-21.
27-21 Jags. So when we come in here on Tuesday, my total will be 10-4 and Owen's total will be 3-11. And I might have to look for a more optimistic prediction partner. Owen might have to, he might have to, he can do, 40 minutes of the show. And then once it's time for predictions, he steps out and then maybe or maybe we find someone else to give a score for just to, I mean, at this point, my steak dinner is going to be very expensive.
Yeah, I'll for graduation, I'll take you somewhere nice.
How I'm looking forward to that very, very much. But that kind of wraps it up for us. Um, we'll be we'll
Who's your
be
MVP of the Jags game?
my MVP of the Jags game is going to be my MVP is going to be Mr. Zeke.
Okay.
Zeke's gonna have a 100-yard game. He's gonna have 2 rushing touchdowns. Gonna get me 24 fantasy points. Advance me to the championship. It's gonna be great. I'm excited.
Mine is Michael Parsons. I think it's about time that he. I think anyone on the like. I think that
Would you
Micah
have since
is.
you picked the Jaguars, you got to give the MVP of the game can't be a player from
I
losing.
meant like MVP for Dallas. Okay, well MVP for the Jags.
Is
Either
it the
I
circle name
think
behind me, Mister Trevor?
no I think that I think Trayvon Walker's gonna have a big game
The number
or
one
Josh
overall pick.
Allen. Yeah,
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
yeah. Well, thank you everyone. I know we didn't really talk about much. This is episode 50. We've done 50 of these things since a year and a half
July
ago.
of 21
Yeah, June of
was our
21.
first episode.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for sticking with us. And for any one of y'all that listen this, if you're still listening, Tuesday's gonna be a really exciting episode. So make sure to listen to that. We'll have more news on our Twitter at America's at yeah, you got it. At America's Team, capital P, capital C. Yeah.
And yeah, and be we'll be recording Tuesday 6:30 or 7 p.m. Central Time. More news, like Owen said, will be out on Twitter in the next couple of hours slash couple days. So be looking out for that, and I'll tweet a couple things if the game is not going well, or if the game is going well, you'll see some tweets from me. More likely, if the game is going poorly, I'll tweet more. But unlike our fellow Cowboy fan Skip Bayless, I keep my tweets at a minimum unless they need to be said, because I forget. But yeah, I'll be tweeting tomorrow.
And we
Might even
thank
tweet
you for
something
that.
today.
Hmm?
We'll see. Might even tweet something today if I think of something that would humor the masses.
After the Vikings game, you might have to.
Oh, I can't wait to tweet about the Vikings game. The
Well,
Colts are still technically not eliminated.
yeah, no, they are they're 4-8,
They're
about to be
teetering.
5-8.
They're teetering on
Or,
elimination, but they're not eliminated yet. That is the truth.
yeah,
But yeah, let's wrap this up. Have a great weekend.
definitely, and go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys. Let's get this win, and then we can start talking about Philadelphia. But let's push them to the side for one more day, get the win, and then you can talk about Philadelphia all you want, Micah Parsons. But you got to win first. All right, go
True.
Cowboys. Have a
Go
great
Cowboys.
Saturday.
You too. We hope they do.